On this Friday night, a manhunt in New Brunswick is over. A First Nations terrifying emergency comes to a close after a deadly shooting. What we know so far about the man in custody. Canadian rockets delivered to Ukraine. How Kyiv is getting its wish months after a Global News exclusive interview.
It's thousands enemy tanks that can be destroyed.
Plus, bogus bucks. A Quebec man pleads guilty to smuggling thousands of counterfeit coins. Will he really pay the price with a lighter sentence? And Montreal's newest mega mall.
This is world standard.
The billions that went into this luxury shopping center that some still aren't sold on.
Global National with Donna Friesen. Reporting tonight, Carolyn Jarvis.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. We begin with breaking news and a major terror plot foiled. A man living in Canada has been arrested in Ormstown, Quebec, as he was allegedly about to cross the border into the U.S. on Wednesday. Mohammed Shazed Khan, who is a Pakistani citizen, is accused of planning an ISIS gun and knife attack at a Jewish center in Brooklyn this coming October 7th. That's the one-year anniversary of the Hamas attack on Israel. You can find more details on our website, globalnews.ca. To other news now, in New Brunswick, a tense manhunt is finally over. Police announced they have arrested a 47-year-old just over 24 hours after a province-wide emergency alert was issued about an armed and dangerous man wanted in a fatal shooting. Global's Suzanne Lapointe is following the story for us tonight. Suzanne.
47-year-old Keith Martin was arrested Friday afternoon. Police were searching for him following a reported shooting in Esconobidich Thursday afternoon. The RCMP had been searching for Martin, warning he was evading police and believed to be carrying a firearm with dangerous intent. This after a 48-year-old man was killed and another man was injured in the region. Esconobidich residents like Lance Narvi were startled when they got an emergency alert asking them to stay inside with doors locked.
Next thing you know, I'm reading it. Heard it was Keith, so I was like, hold what's going on? Took a walk down here, noticed that the road behind me here, Diggle Point, was closed off, and asked a few family members. They said one of our family members was shot. So I was like, what's going on, man?
Narvi says he's related to both the suspect and the man who was killed. He says he's shocked his cousin was wanted in connection with such serious crimes.
Keith, I know Keith all my life. Used to be his neighbor. Well, his mother used to live beside my grandmother. Growing up, I was best friends with his nephew.
Several businesses were closed in Esconobidich on Friday while the police searched for Martin, who is not facing charges as of now. There was also concern in the neighboring community of Niguac.
We're not used to that. It's a peaceful community around here. We're not used to have somebody at large running with a gun.
Police say based on this investigation, they believe it was an isolated incident. But this was a tense couple of days for this tight-knit community. Carolyn?
Suzanne, thank you. To Saskatoon now, where a 15-year-old female student is recovering in hospital from serious injuries after being attacked allegedly by a fellow classmate at school yesterday. The victim was apparently doused in a flammable liquid and set on fire. Let's join Nicole Healey, who is outside the school. Nicole.
Students arrived here to Evan Hardy Collegiate in Saskatoon Friday, not for class, but to collect their things as they try to process a shocking end to the first week of school. There's a somber mood outside tonight after a student allegedly set another on fire. The suspected attacker, a 14-year-old girl, appearing in court Friday morning, facing charges of attempted murder, aggravated assault, and arson.
One of the teachers apparently did suffer some injuries while trying to put out the fire.
A school resource officer was already there for another incident and arrested the 14-year-old suspect within seconds.
This is not something that we ever expected and could really prepare for.
Police believe the attack was intentional. Parents now wondering how such a serious attack could have occurred.
Holy moly, where do we go from here?
Global News asked the Saskatoon Public School Board for comment, but did not hear back before deadline. Grade 9 students Alexi Sparvier and Sophie Hubbard saw the whole thing play out.
We paused for 5 seconds and then I yelled fire and I just ran out with Sophie. And that's when I called the 911, right? And I'm still shaking.
I didn't believe it was real.
I didn't even know if it was real or not.
Child psychiatrist Tamara Haynes says serious incidents like this have a lasting impression.
Try to not project or superimpose our own sort of thoughts and emotions on this, just really kind of create a space where your kids or the kids in your life can feel safe to talk about it.
The victim remains in hospital. The investigation is currently in the hands of the Saskatoon Police Serious Assault Unit. Nicole Healey, Global News, Saskatoon.
A 14-year-old suspect in Wednesday's deadly mass shooting at a high school in Georgia made his first court appearance this morning, and he wasn't the only one. The teen's dad was also in court as he's now accused of facilitating the shooting. As Jackson Proskow reports, the father's arrest shows a growing willingness from U.S. prosecutors to try and hold parents responsible too.
In back-to-back court appearances, 14-year-old Colt Gray and his father Colin heard the charges they face.
Are you Mr. Colt Gray?
Yes, sir.
The teenager is accused of opening fire with an AR-style rifle, killing 2 students, 2 teachers, and injuring 9 others. Late Thursday, investigators charged his father with involuntary manslaughter, second-degree murder, and cruelty to children.
These charges stem from Mr. Gray knowingly allowing his son, Colt, to possess a weapon.
In court, Colin Gray rocked back and forth as the families of the victims watched silently.
For a maximum total possible penalty for the charges that you currently are facing of 180 years imprisonment.
Police first investigated Colt Gray in May of last year after a tip about online threats to carry out a school shooting. At the time, his father told police the family owned hunting rifles, but Colt was only allowed to use them with supervision. Then in December, Colin Gray reportedly purchased the gun allegedly used in the shooting as a gift for his son.
I would hope that prosecutors would use every arsenal or every tool in their arsenal to hold people accountable.
In America's epidemic of school shootings, parents are increasingly on the radar of prosecutors.
I am sorry for your loss as a result of what my son did.
Earlier this year, James and Jennifer Crumbly became the first parents of a school shooter to be convicted and sentenced. They purchased a handgun for their son, who later shot and killed 4 students in Michigan. Back in Georgia, the community is trying to understand how this tragedy happened and why apparent warning signs weren't enough. Jackson Proskow, Global News, Washington.
Former U.S. President Donald Trump has once again succeeded in pushing back the calendar on a major legal problem. The judge overseeing Trump's hush money criminal case has delayed sentencing until after the U.S. presidential election. In May, Trump was convicted on 34 counts of falsifying business records related to a payment made to adult film star Stormy Daniels. The sentencing is now set for November 26 due to what the judge called the extraordinary nature and timing of the first ever sentencing of a former U.S. president. Trump, meanwhile, lashed out at writer E. Jean Carroll today, moments after his lawyers attempted to overturn a $5 million ruling that he defamed and sexually assaulted her.
But she made up a story, it fabricated 100%, that I attacked her at Bergdorf Goodman. It never happened. It was made up for political reasons. And the DOJ is behind everything.
Trump was in court today as his lawyers tried to convince a federal appeals court that he should get a new trial after a jury found him liable last year of sexually abusing and defaming the one-time columnist. Carroll's lawyer has left open the idea of a new defamation claim against Trump following his latest comments. The White House is expressing shock tonight at the killing of a Turkish-American activist, apparently by the Israeli army, during a protest in the occupied West Bank. 26-year-old Aishinur Aidi was participating in a protest against Israeli settlements. 2 witnesses are accusing Israel of firing live ammunition at Palestinian protesters, some of whom were throwing stones. It appears that one of those bullets struck Aidi in the head, killing her instantly. Elsewhere in the West Bank, the Israeli military announced today that it is withdrawing from 3 refugee camps, including one near the city of Jenin. The Israeli army has been operating there for 10 days, it says, to root out Palestinian militants. Despite leaving, Israel suggested its operations in the West Bank are not over. The 10-day incursion in Jenin caused dozens of deaths and a trail of destruction, including damaged roads, water, electricity, and communication networks. Canada is delivering on a promise to Ukraine that Global News first told you about in February. In an exclusive interview, Ukraine's spy chief revealed Canada was asked to donate a stockpile of more than 80,000 decommissioned rockets that were collecting dust in a Saskatchewan warehouse and slated to be destroyed. Now that request has been granted. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says he's thankful for the support to fight Russia. Jeff Semple reports.
Ukraine's president met with NATO defense ministers, including Canada's, Bill Blair, announcing a special delivery.
And so we have, Canada's stepping up.
More than 80,000 rocket motors and warheads produced in Winnipeg during the Cold War and retired 2 decades ago, now being shipped to the battlefield of Ukraine.
What's the general situation in Ukraine? It's hard to find bullets in shops, Jeff. We're asking for something that you don't need.
Ukrainian intelligence sources say they're grateful for the donation, but hope Canada can move faster. They waited a year for a response, and the rockets will now take months to transport.
I was going to ask you about the delay as well.
We actually had to undertake an analysis to make sure that those munitions could be transported safely.
The rockets are part of a broader package of recycled Canadian equipment that includes old armored vehicles and thousands of firearms. Canada is also training Ukrainian pilots with their newly acquired F-16s. Ukraine is also asking Canada for several unused CIWS systems, which are sitting in a Calgary warehouse and can be repurposed to shoot down Russian missiles. But Volodymyr Zelensky's top request, reiterated today, is for Ukraine to be allowed to use Western-made missiles to attack inside Russia. Minister Blair told me that Canada supports Ukraine's request to use long-range missiles against Russia, but Canada has no such missiles of its own to offer. Carolyn?
Jeff Semple in Toronto, thank you. Canada's unemployment rate hit a 7-year high. Statistics Canada says unemployment rose to 6.6% in August, up slightly from July. It's the highest it's been since May 2017, not counting the pandemic. But as Mackenzie Gray reports, it's not hitting everyone equally.
University of Ottawa students are stressed by more than just the start of a new school year.
I've been looking for a job since January, and I didn't find a job, and I found a job in Montreal. That's why I went there.
International student Michael Ndua has his own theory on why unemployment continues to rise.
I think there is too many international students right now.
And many economists agree the job market can't keep up with the rapid uptick in post-COVID immigration numbers. Despite adding 22,000 jobs in August, the overall unemployment rate jumped to 6.6%. Excluding the pandemic, it's the highest it's been since 2017, largely due to population growth of over 96,000 newcomers in August alone. Economic conditions hitting young people hardest. Under 25 employment is now double the general rate, its worst level in 12 years.
Those with lowest seniority, in generally lower paying jobs, those are the people who are starting to feel the brunt of it.
A stark change from 2 years ago when unemployment was at its lowest level since the 60s, a worrying new trend showing signs the Canadian economy is slowing.
We've gone from a low unemployment rate environment to one where, we're starting to enter concerning territory.
Concerns also from the Bank of Canada. Increases to interest rates from the central bank have forced businesses to cut back on hiring or cut staff altogether, and they're worried persistent high immigration levels could continue to put pressure on the job market.
The Canadian economy is at a point where it's having trouble absorbing the number of workers.
That scenario is likely to give the Bank of Canada more cover to cut interest rates further, Carolyn, and with 2 more decisions set for this year, rates could start with a 3 just in time for Christmas.
Mackenzie Gray in Ottawa, thank you. Canadian swimmer Sebastian Massabie set a new world record at the Paralympics today and elevated Canada's medal count. The 19-year-old snagged a gold in the men's 50-meter freestyle. Massabie, who has cerebral palsy, which affects his left side, competed in 2 other freestyle events this year. Canadian wheelchair racer Cody Forney won his 2nd gold medal at the Paralympics. The 35-year-old won the men's 100 meters in a Paralympic record time of 19.63 seconds. He also won gold in the 200 meters on Tuesday. And Canada also got a silver today, thanks to Canadian discus thrower Jesse Zesu. The 25-year-old reached the podium with a throw of 53.24 meters. Zesu has cerebral palsy. This is his Paralympic Games debut. A Quebec man is behind bars tonight for trying to smuggle 26,000 fake toonies into the country. Global News has learned he quietly pleaded guilty and will spend less than a year in prison, despite a long history of crime. Fraud experts warn his sentence may do little to deter others from trying to make easy money with bogus coins. Taria Isri has the exclusive details tonight.
26,000 phony toonies landed a Quebec man 9 months in jail.
Slap on the wrist. Maximum penalty for what he has done is 14 years.
Jean-François Jeannereux admitted to trying to smuggle fake coins with a face value of $50,000 into Canada, ordering them for 5 cents a piece off a website in China. Global News has learned Jeannereux had a history of counterfeiting goods and faking documents, along with more than a dozen arrests dating back 2 decades.
I don't think that a 9-month sentence in this particular case is much of a deterrent.
In January 2023, a Canadian border agent at the Mirabel airport noticed a suspicious package addressed to Jeannereux. Inside, 12,000 bogus toonies. Police discovered another 14,000 counterfeit coins on his property north of Montreal. 26,000 fake toonies in all. We spoke to counterfeit coin expert Mike Marshall about the case last November.
Hopefully they're waking up. I doubt it.
Nearly a year later, he still doubts that.
There should have been a federal government response publicly.
At sentencing, the judge also ordered federal authorities to destroy the 26,000 fake toonies. But unless more is done to combat counterfeit currency, coin experts say there will be plenty more where that came from. Taria Isri, Global News, Montreal.
Canada Post is proposing to raise stamp rates by around 25%. A stamp booklet would increase from 99 cents to $1.24 per stamp. The new rates would take effect January 13th if they're given regulatory approval. Ahead, a super typhoon pounds parts of China. A fire at a boarding school in Kenya has killed at least 18 students. 70 are still unaccounted for and 27 others are injured. Anxious parents unable to find their children waited for news outside the school. The fire broke out overnight as students slept in the boys' dormitory. The cause is not yet known. The building housed more than 150 students in grades 4 to 8. Super typhoon Yagi slammed into China today, paralyzing a southern island popular with tourists. The intense weather front brought heavy rain and packed winds up to 234 kilometers per hour. It was so ferocious, it bent trees and ripped roofs off buildings. Visibility was also severely limited. Yagi is one of this year's most powerful storms. Coming up, it's shopping on another level. We take you to the mega mall that just opened its first phase in Montreal. Well, at a time when online shopping is taking a bigger cut of retail sales, a Montreal developer is betting big on the in-person experience. The Royal Mount Mega Mall in Montreal opened its first phase this week. It's a multi-billion-dollar project, home to some of the most luxurious brands in the world. Mike Armstrong went for a visit.
Just a week ago, these trees weren't here, and it was construction workers instead of customers. After some last-minute scrambling, the new Royal Mount Mall is open for business.
It's huge. It's fun. I love the feeling.
The initial reviews are positive, even though so far about half the stores are still closed.
I feel like I'm walking in a mall in Vegas.
Feels like that, eh?
It really feels like that.
Now, there's still a lot to come. An aquarium, a theater, a skating rink. The developers say they aren't just out to create a new upscale mall, but a neighborhood.
You are standing
in the epicenter of the new Midtown.
Andrew Lufty is the lead investor in the project. At the media unveiling Tuesday, he called it democratic luxury. Options for every bank account, but anchored by some of the highest of high-end brands.
So we've got Gucci, Saint Laurent, Louis Vuitton, and of course Tiffany.
Our retail has not been world standard, and not even close to being world standard. This is world standard.
Now, this mall was built entirely without government funds, but also, in some cases, without government support. There was resistance from day one. When it was first pitched a decade ago, the project didn't have a residential component. Condos were then added to the splashy corporate videos. But there was still resistance.
The negative impact was more important than the positive impact.
Montreal's mayor has for years said it will add to traffic congestion and hurt other retail outlets around the city. Adding to the controversy, in the middle of a housing crisis, the housing part of the project hasn't started. The developer says only about 8% of the project has been built. What's open now is very much, he says, just the beginning. Mike Armstrong, Global News, Montreal.
And that is Global National for this Friday. I'm Carolyn Jarvis. Tonight's Your Canada is a trio of pronghorn antelopes near Maymont, Saskatchewan. We love to see your Canada. Please email it to globalnational@globalnews.ca. Thanks for watching. Neetu Garcha will be at the anchor desk tomorrow. Have a good night.